for referees, coaches, players, and fans.
Broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
With your hosts, Scott Smokin, Silz, and Brad Baumruck.
Live.
The Ref Room starts right now.
And now your host.
Oh yeah, it is Wednesday. We got the green on. This is the Ref Room, not the orange today because it is halfway to St. Patrick's Day. So we're having a special celebration. And I'm joined by my good friend Brad Baumruck. And of course, we have a very special guest today. And that person is Mr. Joe Prescott, because it is halfway to St. Patrick's Day. That's why we're all got the green on, and we got no better guest than we could have for an Irish Day than Mr. Prescott himself. So welcome back to the show, Joe.
Glad to be here. 183 days to the Feast of St. Patrick.
There you go. See, and how many minutes and seconds?
that I only get when
Uh-oh.
Joe froze. You froze up, Joe. I don't know what happened. He was fine. He's been on here for a while talking.
We've been on for a half hour.
Yeah, been a half hour talking. Now he froze up. All right, he'll unfreeze.
So,
I'm sure his internet will come back. You were for a minute. You were for a minute. Yeah.
Okay. So is that sort of like a max headroom sort of thing, you know? Where
Exactly.
Okay. So
It's like getting onto a plane.
Yeah.
Only so much seating.
So before we get started, I do want to thank Brett Straley because Brett was kind enough to buy us some coffee today. So thank you for that. He supports the channel basically monthly. What a great guy. We really appreciate that. It really helps. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/refroom and buy any of us a coffee, okay? It's like $4 for a coffee. So, Alan says hello. Chris says, let's go through some of these pops.
Yeah, they're coming in.
Alan from Skokie, from the our scorekeeper, says hello too. So
Alan Gould.
everybody,
Alan's a great guy.
got guys checking in here already. All right, well, we got lots to talk about because we're into the new season. We're into the new rules. Hopefully some of you guys or most of you guys have already worked some games and you've had a chance to experience putting some of the new rules into play or just situations in general. So we're going to talk about a few things today. And one of the things we were talking about before the show started really was icing. So, Joe, I'm going to let you take it from here because Joe really wants to cover this situation now that we have instant icing.
Well, guys, what's really key is, yes, there are some officials that have worked a good amount of games, but the majority of us have not worked the tournaments that have been in the last few weekends. With the new rules, yes, and there's a lot of us that, we can talk over beers or over sodas or whatever about what we like, what we don't like. These are the rules we have to enforce. But one of the problems that people bring up is that the games may take longer because shorthanded teams will ice the puck anyway, or they're not skilled enough to chip the puck off the glass and get it out to center ice. Okay, this is a perfect time for all of us to review how we've been calling icing and maybe the bad habits that we got into. When you have automatic icing, normally, if you let's just say full strength, unfortunately, everybody gets in the bad habit of just focusing on does the puck cross the goal line. And we lose the sight lines of what the non-offending team is doing. So whether you are shorthanded or whether it's even strength, there is a potential icing. Did the defenseman step up to play an opposing player thinking that it might have been a pass? All right. That now it's no icing because that player has taken himself or herself out of position. What does the defenseman on the far side do? Now, we're not talking about the ones blasted down the ice, but the ones that are passed or shot and could be a potential icing. Does that defenseman just stand up, or do both of them just stand up? If they've made no attempt at all at the puck, yes, we wash that out. If any player who is not icing the puck, the opposing team, has a chance to play the puck except the goaltender and either dogs it or turns the other way or he steps up to make a play and misses the puck, that is no icing. And we're not doing this just to help us. One of the problems with kids going to junior hockey or ACHA or the NCAA is that even with the old rules, we still had automatic icing, and now they go to hybrid icing. And they're not that strong on their pivots and their turns to get to that puck. So we're really helping develop the kids if we're calling the rule correctly. And for everybody that's interested, Rule 624 is on page 195 in the new guy here.
There you go.
Okay. And
mine's across the room.
That's okay, but it's
it's literally right over there.
Yes, it's 624B, and especially 625B5, but 625B gives you all the situations where a potential icing would be nullified. And then the situations in the case book, especially the last 5 or 6, cover this very clearly. And this is the time to set the tempo. And especially early in the game, if you can point out the defensemen have a play, no ice, the kids all pick up on that. And believe me, you're going to see those defensemen moving their feet the next time. They're not going to let that happen again.
Hey,
so
Joe.
Yes.
Sorry, what? Just because you brought it up, what's your opinion on as an official when there's an icing play? Let's say it's even questionable, and you're making that call, and you're waving it off because the defenseman could have played it. Do you think it's a bad onus, possibly to give a little point at that player and say they could have played it, or do you think that that's something that we should be doing? Like, I've seen some officials say that that's bad onus. You shouldn't be doing that. You're coaching the players at that point. Or do you think at the levels that we're working until you get to junior hockey and college hockey, which I include ACHA, do you think that's a good onus to follow because we're stating in that situation there that this is the reason for the icing, let's keep playing? I don't think we're coaching the players at that point. What do you think?
I don't think we're coaching the players at all. We're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing with our signals, which are nonverbal. But remember, from the first seminar you go to any league you want to work in, people are going to tell the front linesman or front official, be vocal and say what's going on. Just, icing, or no ice. Let them know. Same situation. No ice. That player had a play.
Yeah,
You're communicating to the benches. You're communicating why you wash that out. Now, I know that USA Hockey, a lot of people don't want us to over-signal. But, we're not doing the triple point. Just, no ice. The defenseman had a play on the puck. You're letting everybody know why you wash that out. And now
I think you got to do it, because I think if you don't, the coaches are going to lose their minds back there. And I think the minute you do verbalize what you're doing, I think that eliminates it. And it sends a message to the players and to the coach that you're paying attention and this is why you're doing it. And I think you're just saving yourself a lot of problems down the road. I see it a lot with, I'm going to say, the newer officials in the 3-man system, where they sometimes don't waive an icing that they should have waived. Because, player came off the bench or they were changing lines, doing something that should have nullified that icing. And that's just something that they need coaching and work on. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
And Scotty, it's very interesting. In the case book, what you just said in your last 2 sentences there, that's one of the situations. A team is changing players. A puck is shot down near their bench. The players refrain from playing it because they don't want to get too many players on the ice infraction.
Yep.
Is that icing or not? That is no icing because the legal player could have played the puck.
I'll just yell line change and point line change.
Right.
Wave it. Line change. Boom.
And as I said, there are people that think that we signal too much. I'm sorry. I think the more information we give to the teams and the benches, and also in our buildings, the people that are in the building, it reduces the amount of tension. And as Scotty said, the coach is going to go nuts. Absolutely. If you don't say anything at the next stoppage, they're going to say, hey,
Thank you, honey.
why wasn't that icing?
They just think you're being lazy. That's the problem. And I think, honestly, a lot of the coaches, if you're out there listening today, pay attention to this, because this is why icings get waived. They get waived for this reason. Your player makes no effort to play the puck. The puck goes right by the guy. He just there it goes. Or it goes right between 2 guys, and they both look at each other like, you want it? I don't want it. Let's get the icing.
There's a great saying, if it goes through a Sega Circle, it's definitely not an icing. So, I don't know. Sega Circle.
Could you explain a Sega Circle to those of us that don't know what that is?
Yeah. So back in the day, there was, actually, I think NHL 93, I think actually the players were highlighted by a star But the Sega Circle came out in '94, and Sega.
Oh, Sega, as in like Sega. Okay.
Genesis,
Thank you.
if it goes through your Sega Circle, okay. So when you're that player in the video game, it highlights you with a circle. If it goes through your Sega Circle, it's never, ever, ever, ever going to be icing.
Yeah.
But if it's within 4 feet of your Sega Circle, so stick length basically, because almost everybody's around 4 feet and longer, okay? It's not exact science. But if it's within those areas, you should have a reasonable opportunity to play that puck. And Joe pointed out, too, another thing we need to watch out for is the defenseman turning the opposite way. So what he means by that is, it's coming up the ice, the guy shoots it to the defenseman's left side, and they're left-handed. Instead of them stepping towards the puck to their left, they take the long way, and they turn around and go to their right.
Yeah.
Or now you also have to watch out for what I call the lazy defenseman, which they turn left, right? And as they turn left, they take an extra 2 or 3 crossovers so that they circle themselves out further away from the puck as they're going towards it. It's a very elusive play. Some of the really, really good defensemen at the higher levels of hockey really make it very difficult to catch. But, most of the time, you're taking, when you transition 1, 2, 3 strides, well, these guys will take 6, 7, 8 so that they get that little extra edge. And then they hustle down the ice, but the puck's already beat them down the ice because they took that long way to the puck. It's very interesting. There's some very, very creative players out there. I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to be sorry. But see, this is what makes officiating fun, in my mind. For the guys that just go out there and want to get it done and get out of the building and go wherever the hell they're going, that's fine. But for people, and I know you guys are the same way, and I was just brought up in a different way. It is an onion. There are just so many levels and things that you can look for in that situation. If a linesman is really sharp at whatever level, points at the guy, that turn he was dogging, that's no ice, he picks it up. That's never going to happen in that game. He's going to wait for the linesman that doesn't have the experience. The guy that turns the other way, he turned off the puck. It's no ice. Again, that's not going to happen the next time, nor are his partners on the bench going to be doing that.
But the beauty of it, too, Joe, is that this is what makes hockey, because this is a judgment call. You cannot train a computer to make that call.
Correct.
You need a human that knows what they're doing to make that call, and that's what makes the game better.
Right. Now, and Brad brought up something on when asking the question that I think we should cover right now, too. That's coaching the players, okay? I see this happen a lot in the corners and along the boards, where some of our guys say, play the puck, puck's right there, play it. No. Now that is coaching the players. Whether you're trying to talk to all the players in the group or whatever, it just really does sound like coaching versus saying puck's free, puck's loose, free puck. Now you're talking not to any individual player, it's to everybody in that general area. If you say play the puck, now and I understand why some people say it. All right. They say it because they want them concentrating on not pounding each other. I get it.
Well, I'm guilty of that. If I can talk somebody off the fence in a situation, I try. I mean,
fine.
we just don't need that bad cheap shot coming. Just because if I could say play the puck and talk somebody down from taking somebody's head apart, I'm going to do it.
Scotty,
but it is coaching. I get that. I get it.
I didn't say not to.
A lot of guys say sticks down or whatever. Keep the stick down,
That's all good. But I'm just saying, instead of play the puck, just say puck's loose, puck's free, puck's right there. Now, instead of talking to the player that might be closest to the puck, where somebody could say, well, he's coaching that player. He's giving somebody an advantage. If you say puck's free, puck's loose, you're talking to the general group that's around there. And just like you. Yeah, you see a couple of guys tied up and you see that third guy coming in. If I'm on that side close enough, I'll say, don't take the body. If you're going in for the puck, but don't take the body, And that's something, especially with the new rules, that we have to jump on in the
That is a penalty now. That is a penalty. Yeah. If you are, two guys are along the boards and, they're just tied up with the puck, and then somebody decides they're going to come in and separate everybody with the body blow.
Right.
Penalty.
I'll give you the wording. The wording is, if two players are engaged in the process of obtaining the puck and a third player comes in and basically train wrecks them. Yeah. But a third player
I don't think train wreck was in there. Was that in the wording?
No, but I like that wording. But if they come in and make a hit as the third, person coming in. So, but it's if they're actively engaged in trying to obtain a puck legally, and you're the third player that comes in and hits a player involved in that engagement, they're unsuspecting. They're defenseless at that point. Exactly. So our game has decided that is no longer going to happen. Right. So as much as I have a lot of officials, like Joe said earlier, complain about rules and stuff like that, our game as a whole, and I always like to point this out because this was pointed out by Joe and lots of other people that are years wiser than me. But our game, it's my game, it's your game, it's the player's game, it's the coach's game, it's the parents' game, now it's Live Barn's game, it seems like. Our game has decided to go this way in the rules. We're not asked to judge those rules. We're not asked we're asked our opinion.
No, we're not.
It's not.
Our opinion is given to us.
But it's not up to us though on what we're calling that day. We're able to manage the parts of the gray area of the book, but the black and white that's in there, which is mostly injury stuff, we have to call. We don't get to choose that. Is that kind of the correct wording, Joe? Our game decided to go this way, so we have to support those rules and teach them as they come.
It's the book we're given. It's what we're dealt. It's the cards we're dealt, guys. You got to play the hand.
Right, and this is why whatever league or whatever level you're working, that part of our game decides what rules they're going to play under. And if you want to do amateur hockey in the United States that's covered by USA Hockey, absolutely. That is the cards you're dealt. And for those, as Jack Brickhouse used to say, for those scoring at home, what Brad brought up, I am looking for the word train wreck, but it's not here. But it is.
It's not in the glossary.
Yeah, right. But it's Rule 640, unnecessary roughness. It's not under charging or that. It's on page 210 for those scoring at home. And it says,
and why don't you give them what they're going to score there? That would be a 2-minute minor penalty for.
Correct. Roughing. It says a minor penalty shall be assessed to any player who delivers a body check to an opponent who is physically engaged for possession of the puck with one or more players. And the note says when two or more players are physically engaged for possession of the puck, they are considered vulnerable. All right? And that's true. I mean, they're kicking and moving the puck. And you don't want that third guy coming in. Right. In Federation hockey, high school hockey, I always called that. Now, USA Hockey wasn't clear, but when a guy would just go in and, now here again, what Brad said, train wreck a guy, absolutely, I would call that. Now the guy that came in and would
correct me if I'm wrong, though, Joe. Didn't they used to in USA Hockey have where you were supposed to blow the whistle or something when you had the two guys in there, and then you were going to anticipate a third person coming in there? You were supposed to blow the whistle. Now, how do you shut down play on anticipation that guy's not just coming over to try to pull the puck from between the guy's skates versus train wreck?
Again,
so I'm glad they clarified that. I'm glad it's fine. They did a really good job this year in the book of cleaning up a lot of the verbiage as far as things go, I think. And that's a good one right there.
That is one thing that's going to lead into our next thing that we spoke about earlier, which is that's a good thing. Because the guys that come in when two or three guys are, in the scrum kicking and using their sticks at the puck, and this guy just buries one, an opposing player. Boy, what an absolutely, I was going to say a swear word, but cowardly. You are just the lowest form of life. Boy, I'll tell you, you hit a guy that had no chance you were
And
coming.
it's usually, I hate to say it, usually a pretty big guy that does it. It's not the little 4'7" winger that's coming in there to take care of that. It's usually the guy that's like 6'2".
Yeah, well, and again, it is just cheap, weak. It's like people that check from behind. They see the numbers. They still knock the guy down. Brad brought this up. Absolutely. This is something, we are starting a new season. Let's get rid of this garbage.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there are kids that are turning their back bad. It's a bad situation on the breakout to receive the pass. Okay. The guy who is coming up to, either intercept the pass or take that player, if there's body contact, yes, it's all numbers. But if he doesn't blast the guy, we could still find it as an elbow or roughing or something like that if the player deliberately turned right when the player was coming.
Well, let's keep in mind, the player still has the ability to maintain his spot on the ice. If he is stationary and that guy turns in reverse to pick up that pass and doesn't see that player, now it's a collision.
Again, it's judgment. All
Exactly.
I'm trying to say is the coaches that are letting the kids on the moving breakout, they're moving and the pass is coming and they turn and show all numbers. Okay, let's use some judgment. Now, this is not what we're talking about the guy that just blasts the guy in the numbers that never saw him coming. The guy that releases the pass and now the guy wails on him. He had no idea it's there. And this is the time we need to stop that. And as Brad brought up when we were talking earlier, slew footing. Slew footing, if you actually slew foot, boy, are you a weak sister. And so, you shouldn't be out there. But also, let's not screw up what is tripping and what is slew footing. Slew footing is clearly defined that besides the foot or the leg, you have something else involved to clip that player. All right. So
see now, okay, hey, you had to open up this can of worms because Brad and I have been down this before.
Here we go.
Yeah. My opinion is, let's say you're two wingers lined up at the face-off,
right,
and the one comes in, puts his leg between your leg, and decides to kick that skate out to the left and drop you on your tailbone.
All right, hang on, hold on, 1 second. If you're a referee, either the high guy or the low guy, and you see a guy lining his foot up behind the other player's feet, you should probably correct that face-off before you even start.
Correct.
Just so you know, because the second you see that, you should be thinking in your head, he's gonna kick his feet out. That's how I work it. But keep going.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's not even at that point. Like it's going to happen at that face-off. They may be on their side, but the guy creeps in. One guy stays back a little bit, the other one's up a little forward. Then he creeps in, and he's going to get him. He's going to wait. He may wait till the puck even comes that way, and then he's going to take him out. But to me, that's a slew foot too. I'm sorry, that's not a trip.
So
okay.
I just want
Nothing good is coming from that, and you're going down on your tailbone, and you're going hard.
Once again, for those scoring at home, page 208.
He's got it.
Thank you, Jack Brickhouse.
yes, Jack Brickhouse, and he was the best when he did the Bears, and you had Herb Cups in it, as Herb
Oh
was
my God.
the.
I don't even remember
guy.
that. I mean, I remember Irv Cups in it, but I don't remember. Okay.
And
All right. Let's try to stay in this century.
Hold on. Can I ask you, gentlemen,
Yeah.
was I alive during any of this? What you were just
Probably
talking about?
not. Probably not.
Jack Brickhouse was the announcer. He was the television announcer for the Cubs for a good 30 years.
That coined the phrase "Holy cow." No, that wasn't. Hey, hey. He had hey.
Hey.
They used to flash hey when there'd be a home run. He always did. That's the one. Yeah. Harry Carey was holy cow.
and to, give Jack a chance to, go have a sandwich or go to the bathroom or whatever, Vince Lloyd and Lou Boudreau, one of them would come over from the radio and sit in with him as the other guy. This was before 2 people or 3 in the booth was the norm. But for football, he also did the Bears for a good quarter century on radio. And Jack had Irv Kupcinet, who was a really big guy in the social life of Chicago. But Irv was a Chicago guy, and, Jack would say, God, that was an outstanding play by Sayers cutting up there, and Ken Cannon handed off to Sayers, and it was a great play. And all of a sudden, Irv Kupcinet, that's right, Jack. That was great play. That's a great play, Jack. And then whatever Jack would say, he'd say, that's right, Jack. So, yes, this is well before you were born, and the Bears were still playing at Wrigley Field then. But getting back to slew footing. Okay, slew footing. It is 639 on page 208. Note 4 says slew footing is the act of a player using their leg or foot to knock or kick an opponent's feet from under them. Period. This is where you're right, Scott. This is done by pushing on the opponent's upper body backward with an arm or elbow at the same time using a forward motion of their leg, causing the opponent to fall to the ice. Mm-hmm. All right. At a face-off situation, all right, the upper bodies usually are comparatively immobile, especially at the 4 end zone spots when they're supposed to be separated. Brad's right. If we see guys with crossed legs in the neutral ice situation or center ice face anywhere, yes, stop and say, uncross your legs. You're going to blow a knee out. Or, potentially, like you say, they're setting up a slew foot. Mm-hmm. If you see somebody come in behind your partner or in front of you and you see them back and they edge up and they just kick that guy's leg out, Scotty, that could be covered in the first point. Right. But the clear definition of it is along the boards or when you're tied up with a body, you get low, you get that leg over them, and you push back and pull them back over your leg or foot. So they're totally off balance.
And
they have no
you're
control.
probably going to see that a lot of times in a scrum, at the end of a scrum or something. Somebody, something's been going on. Defenseman, not necessarily defenseman, but guys down in that slot after that scrum. Somebody may decide to try to dump somebody at that point.
It happens a lot when an offensive player is standing in between the hash marks and the play is going on in the corner and the defenseman comes by and just clips him out because he happens to be standing there. That's where it happens super commonly. That offenseman standing there waiting for that puck to get free of that gathering of players.
Right.
And the defenseman may take the center out, the guy that's trying to tip the puck. He's going to do the same thing. He may step up on him, and he can't get him out of there. He decides he's going to dump him. So
Joe, this is what I've heard over the years. So I just want to know the reason that they've harshly penalized slew footing was the act causes the player that's being thrown to the ice they're falling faster than gravity, so they have no chance to defend themselves. Is that the thought process on it? That's what I've been told. I have no idea.
Absolutely. Just think about this. Anybody who's a hockey player, put this in your mind. Anybody that's a hockey player, we've all been on roller coasters, right? Okay.
I know where you're going.
And we're all on roller coasters, and no matter what that thing does on a turn, even if it's a kind of up and down twirly turn, we're like, wow, this is great. But the minute we get in those loop-de-loop ones or the ones that drop straight down, hockey players especially are like, woo, that whole feeling that your upper body is over your legs and hips, for a hockey player, you're not in a good way. So, like you're saying, as soon as you're in a situation that you're clipped and your feet have nothing to do with it, your core has nothing to do with it, you're coming down at a faster rate than you would normally in a body check with no control, no balance. Yeah, that sets off the warning bells. And as Scotty said earlier, usually you land right on that hip bone and the hip pad moves right at that time when you hit, And so, yeah, if it's a legitimate slew foot, again, we're starting a new season. Let's bang it right now. Anybody that clips a guy cheaply, bang it. It's a major in a game. I get it, but that's it. Again, you got the guys scrumming along the boards, and you see the guys tied up, and he uses that upper body to toss the guy back. Boom, that's a slew foot. That's not just a trip. On the other hand, all right, the guys battling for position that do get low and do get their hips down, and one of the players might try and spin out or spin in, and now they flip skate to skate. Now that's not a slew foot, because they both knew they were there, they were both aware of their presence, and it just went. It's not the just skate to skate contact. There has to be some intent to get that player thoroughly off balance, as you said, traveling at a rate of speed that they're not prepared for at all. Using the words at USA Hockey, that it is reckless and they are in a vulnerable position. Clearly.
Yeah, clearly. I agree. Plus, I never thought about this till just now. Think of the whiplash capability that could happen with that. Now I'm thinking of it from where I work, is at the chiropractor's office. But think about when you hit that ice, your head then is snapping back on top of it. It's like sitting in a car at a stoplight and getting rear-ended by another car.
Just catch your edge someday and go backwards onto the ice head first. I mean, it happens. And it takes like a week to feel better. I had that a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I try not to.
I caught that edge. And I ended up in the boards head first. It's not fun.
No, it's not. So you can imagine, and that's what you say, you catch an edge or, you get your skates tied up and, it's not fun. But now if somebody's doing it deliberately, we need those guys off the ice. Brad, you said it earlier, and, when we weren't on the air, it's just plainly cowardly. If you want to be really, cowards shouldn't play our game. I'm all for our game having all sorts of inclusion and all the rest of this stuff they're talking about. But if you want to play our game, we're not going to include cowards, all right, and people that love to hurt people.
Scott,
you hurt somebody legitimately, it happens. But if you're going to take a back shot, a back shooter, we don't need those guys or girls.
What were you going to say, Brad?
I was going to say, get out Brad's breakaway.
Oh, you want Brad's breakaway?
What we would call it Pop's breakaway for the cowardly part.
All right.
We don't need cowards in our game.
All right, here we go. I don't have the video for it. Hang on. I just have to.
Okay. I just thought it.
There it is. There's Brad's breakaway.
All right.
There you go. Go ahead.
All right. I'd like to clarify on what Joe is saying. He's not saying cowards like you're afraid to play or you're not sleeping well at night because you're afraid of the dark, stuff like that. He means legitimate cowards. So cowards that are going to take gutless plays, which is slew fitting, checking from behind, swinging the stick during an altercation. All right, that's a big one. Luckily, I think I've only, in my 23 years, I think I've only had that about 5 or 6 times, to where two players are actively engaged in a situation, and somehow the one player gets away, but he still has his stick, and they take it and they try to tomahawk the guy in the head. Of course, they're not aiming for any place else. But those situations Joe's referring to, or where your opponent's on their knees and you're gonna take a cheap shot at him from up above while you're still standing, which generally happens in the cross check situation. And it's horrible. But we don't want those cowards in the game, not the ones that can't sleep at night because it's dark out. Right, Joe?
It's okay to sleep with a nightlight. It's okay. You could do that.
That was an unplanned breakaway.
Just don't get goofy when you're out there and somebody's in a bad spot.
The biggest thing I can say about this game, and I know, Joe, you'll agree with me here, is don't be an asshole. The rules are set up. Don't be an asshole. Use the stick the way it's intended. Use your body.
Yeah, you're playing in a tough game, okay? It is a tough sport. And, I know some of the parents, when their kids get to be that first-year Bantam and minor Bantam, and they see those first few games, and I know they're nervous as can be because they're not used to seeing little Johnny or little Susie getting bumped around like they do. But the reality of it is it's a tough sport, and
Yeah. It is, and
it's
and I'm going to say this very clearly, and it should be a
Yeah.
tough sport.
But there's
It
some
is-
games that you watch and you go, oh, even as a referee, you got to have a stomach for that. Like some of these games, I've sat and watched. I'll just say, like, go watch the rivalry game, a couple of the rivalry games. You got to have a pretty good stomach to watch those games because they are really tough. There are, nobody's playing out there. So, and I don't mean they're not playing. I mean, they're engaged. They are physical.
They're not lollygagging.
Yeah, I do want to actually cover another subject that, I think we should really talk. I think it would be, we would be doing a disservice to our viewers if they weren't educated a little bit more on the new rule with regard to, okay, we've got the checking, the stick has to be down now. You're supposed to be separating the player from the puck. Let's talk about this with the blow-up hits, which that's been eliminated, or it's supposed to be eliminated. Has been for a couple of years now anyway. But let's just talk about that, Joe. Why don't you give us a little insight into your thoughts on like separating the puck and what we should be looking for and how we should be handling those situations?
Well, first of all, especially in the States, but Canada's had the problem too in the last 20 years. As soon as we put the grills on all the kids, everything came up. And also because, our national sport, not our national pastime, has been football for the last 30 years, and kids play football. Everything is upper body through and up. And unfortunately, hockey is all getting down, hitting through and down. And our guys don't pick that up. And they have tried for years to get the hits down and to get, again, from the shoulders to the top of the knees, only in the torso. Again, with anything else, in any game, you're going to see a kid that's going to make an extremely good hit on the glass, but the stick, as he hits, that stick's going to be up just because they don't have control of it. That's the perfect time for a nice minor penalty, explaining that, the stick was all over the place. The hit was clean, but you can't be carrying your stick like that. The other situation, there are still going to be blow-up hits. There are kids that can line a kid up and drop a shoulder to the sternum and going to drop that guy like he got shot by Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, the kid's going to go bang, down. That's clean. There are, out of every 1,000 hits, there's one kid that can actually hip check. And he's going to take that guy and wham. And that is devastating. Once again, these are all low hits. You never see a kid hip check with the stick up here. Okay?
No, that's a good point.
The kids that actually have a good core and a strong base and can time it to drop a shoulder right in that guy's sternum, you don't see the stick up here because they can't get the shoulder down.
Right.
So we're not saying there's going to be no hitting in the games that have contact. There are kids that can actually have good, solid contact because they've learned that you're hitting through and down, not through and up or just plain up. And so along the boards, a lot of coaches are teaching how to take the player with the shoulder into the boards while you're taking his hands. You're taking the front of their shoulder and their hands and arms, taking that into the boards, and you're using that to either kick or get your stick under their stick. And if you're trying to do that, which, is a very physical angle, as they say, your stick has to be down because you're trying to clearly separate that player from the puck. But where most of the penalties are going to be is even the kids that are now trying to not use their hands, not, hit, straight up. When they hit, they are somehow going to have that stick up. And if you catch it early, the coaches will understand, okay, and they'll get it. But if all of a sudden you're kind of lax on it, especially along the glass, the glass in the end boards, because it's very clearly defined. Here's the kid's shoulders, and there's the stick right there, next to it. That's fine. It's a high stick because the stick was too high.
While you're on the subject, how about the player? And I don't want to call it I don't know what you'd call the hit, but you're basically, they're coming in and they're delivering like this, but their stick is off the ice now. It's up waist level when they come across. It's not I'm not giving the butt end, but a lot of players like to hit like this, and they come in and they're driving the body, but they have their stick up now. Their stick is probably waist high.
Well, Scott, I wish we had clips on it.
Yeah.
Where we could show that.
And there's
because I will tell you, one of the criticisms I have of that is the knee high thing. If they would have said waist high, it would have been more clearly defined.
I agree.
And so how do we determine, is that above the knee, below the knee? Was it below the knee when he made contact and came up? There's a lot of times where kids make a shoulder contact, and then the concussion of the contact, this elbow comes out and doesn't touch the player at all. Okay? Versus the player that the opposing player's getting by and they chicken wing them, where they throw that forearm out. But when you make a good shoulder check and you're following through, sometimes this arm in momentum comes up, but it made no contact. That's not an elbow. Same thing here. If I'm going along, and as you said, you have the stick, and I'm going to make momentum in, if I really want to get that momentum, I'm trying to get, once again, as low as I can to get that guy off balance. So that stick is going to be, knees below the hips, But now the guys that are, out there pitchforking, that's something you could catch, because when they make that contact, they're going to come with the stick way up and use their arms to swing.
And that's exactly the one I'm referring to. So
but that technically,
I like that pitchforking.
The biggest thing that I have with a lot of our rule changes, Joe, and I know that we're trying to just curb the game and all that, is if the officials had used the rule book properly and assessed the minor penalties that we already had in place, such as roughing, elbowing, none of these penalties would have to be even talked about. Because if we penalize the sport properly, because the second you're talking about these arms coming across, right? So the second they're extending that arm to make that hit, what's that fall underneath?
It could be a clean elbow. It could be a butt end. It could be, all sorts of things, depending where the contact is made.
So, and not only that, okay, we're talking about the knee-high part, okay? It's a great starting point. I like that they worded it and put it on paper. But if you see somebody stick above their knee when they're coming in to make a hit, there's probably something fishy going on there. It should be like a red light going off in your head. Ding, 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 ding. It's like a player coming in to make a hit. Instead of dropping their shoulder, as they're coming in, they lift their shoulder up to make that hit. Because if I'm coming up in hockey, right, I'm not doing anything to make a hockey play here when my shoulder comes up.
You're going to take the guy's head off with that.
Right. So I get where everybody's going on and on about this knee thing, and I totally understand, totally legit understand. But if you see that stick ever above their leg, you got to watch for the hands being involved, an elbow being involved. They're hitting to the head. There's something going on there. So they put it on paper. Yep. So I appreciate that. And then to take that a step further is I've been asked by multiple people, because it's a legitimate concern. What if they don't have a stick? You're still legally allowed to separate that player from the puck if you are not currently in possession of a stick. But you can't do it with your hands.
Well, it's all going to be hands at that point. Basically, they're usually not going to use their body to get in there. They're usually going to try to use their hands to get in there.
Well, then that's a penalty. But then again, you got to watch a hit to completion. So as they've reworded this, you have the hit that starts out great, right? It's below the knee. The guy's suspecting the hit. They're not vulnerable. It's not reckless, right? But as the guy hits the guy at the end of the hit, he dumps him over with his hands, guess what? Underneath the rules, you got a penalty now. That's roughing. They defined all that. So
Karen Hyde wrote in here and says, "A good hip check is a lost art."
So true.
And she is so right. And I will tell you, as a kid, Brad Park and Bobby Bond, both of them, boy, could they hip check people. Oh, my God.
I remember
Those
Brad
guys,
Park, yeah.
Yeah, as guys would say, that guy went ass over tea kettle, and I never really knew what that meant, ass over tea kettle, but
it sounds good, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes a point.
Yeah, Park and Bobby Bond, they could get under a guy. Pierre Palat could get under a guy, and Gilles Marat, that we had here. God, they could get under a guy, and you would just see that guy, boom, those feet would come up, and remember, this is a day without helmets, without helmets, and a guy's
I
getting
don't know how
flipped.
they did it.
Yeah, it's
How did the referees survive all those years without a helmet? I mean, just catching an edge and going backwards. I mean, honestly, I don't know how they did it.
Nobody had to skate backwards.
Well,
Well,
I think when I saw the old time clips, they just kind of leaned at center ice on the boards like this and watched the game a lot.
no,
Some of those
Scotty,
vintage games are like this on the boards. Like, yeah, I'm checking it out. I got my eye on them.
Scott, when I do alumni games, I don't wear the helmet. Okay, when I do the Blackhawks and St. Louis and all that, and there's still a couple of guys that. Even 10 years ago, the vast majority of guys didn't have the hat on. And I don't wear the helmet for an alumni game, because I didn't wear a helmet when I officiated, in the minors. And those guys control their sticks, no doubt about it. But we had an alumni game against a high school team, and the Blackhawk alumni came out and played them. And sure enough, the kids weren't used to keeping their sticks down. But when the puck was in the corner, all right, and they see one of the players without a helmet or myself without a helmet, it just hits you in your mind to keep the stick down. I mean, players in those days were much more aware, but even today, if you're, coming up in your sticks here and you see a guy that's all open, just like I am now, no hat, no windshield, you're concerned about that guy, really, and you think that they don't care at all, but just subconsciously they keep that wood. Well, it's not wood now, but they keep that lumber away from you, and that's one of the reasons they survived. There was a lot more respect at every level for this area, Well,
I'm going to just throw this out there because this is, again, my opinion. I love to give my opinion on certain things, but men's league. With USA Hockey, how is it that they don't at least require these players to wear a shield? I don't understand it. I just don't get it. Of all the things, of all the protections we've taken for all the players at all levels, and yet we still let players go out there without a shield. And the worst part, like if you see the guys that played D1 and they played college hockey, they got a shield on. But you see the guy in the D1 league that's a rec leaguer that's 40, 45 years old, and he comes out there with no shield on, no cage, like, can't skate, doesn't want to put on a chin strap either. Like, doesn't even want to put a chin strap on. Like, dude, they don't sell helmets without chin straps. And they can't skate. They're going to fall. I mean, the helmet's going to come off. They're going to get their head cracked open. I don't get it.
Scott, what's interesting, actually, that you bring that up is... like by me, I only work at two places for men's league just because they're close to my house. That's the only reason. It's 10:30 at night. I don't want to drive far for men's league. I have only seen one player in like 4 or 5 years that had absolutely nothing. Almost all the guys have a cage nowadays, and there's less.
I see guys,
now.
Couple guys all the time in these D1 games or C3, C4, C5, whatever you want to call them. They're almost like learn to skate and, no chin strap, don't want to wear a chin strap, don't want to wear a cage, don't want to wear a shield.
Well, when they catch one, they'll learn.
Yeah. But, I just don't get it. As much as USA Hockey tries to protect everybody and
they're probably the same guys driving down the street without their seatbelt buckled.
Could be.
Well,
Could
yeah,
be.
we could get into a long discussion on that, but I think that's for another place and time, and maybe off the air, because I feel I remember the old fat guy with no shield remark.
He resembles the old
Oh,
fat guy with no
all right.
shield remark. It's just a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks for checking in.
New York.
Paul, I know Paul from back in the day on Division Street. He was
Division Street. That lot of fun
BBC.
down there.
I worked at BBC with Paul many years ago. Good dude. All
Okay,
right.
so now besides Brett Straley, are you guys sponsored by anybody?
No, we need a sponsor. You looking to sponsor somebody, Joe? Because
No,
maybe Guinness.
brings out a
Maybe Guinness
Guinness.
could be a sponsor.
Yeah. I was gonna pour this for myself.
Well, wait. What happened to the bottle? You had a bottle of Guinness earlier. Now we're on the can.
Well, the can.
A Guinness a day keeps the doctor away. Isn't that what they say? I'm pretty sure that's what Ozzy Osbourne used to say. Anyway.
Yeah. And just a little story about Guinness.
There you go.
The Queen's Award is always given for, and look at that, boy! I'll tell you, look.
Man,
how
what a
that
pour!
goes up.
What a pour! Black and tan. Black and tan.
There you go. So the Queen's Award is always given for a technical achievement, and about
You got an attaboy, Joe. You got an attaboy.
25, 30 years ago, Guinness received it for this nitrogen cartridge that's in here. First of all, one of the reasons that you very rarely get a hangover from Guinness is that beer has carbon dioxide that's the foam. Guinness is nitrogen. And the cartridge that's in there, where the pressure of the can, when you break this seal, breaks that seal, so the nitrogen goes into the fluid, that won the Queen's Award. And the other awards were like for the polio vaccine and things like, huge accomplishments. And Guinness actually won the Queen's Award.
I always am learning from the referees around here. The referees around here are always teaching me new stuff. So thank you for that, Joe. Another item I did not know. So thank you.
Well, and Guinness is still working on their 5,000-year lease for St. James Gate there, right off the Liffey River in Dublin. And Mr. Guinness, Arthur Guinness, signed a 5,000-year lease. So
That's
don't know why he didn't buy the place, but there you go.
Yeah.
So,
No, he could probably financially support the 5,000-year lease, so it's all good. Anything else you guys want to cover before we go? We're starting to run out of time here just a little bit.
what do you mean we're running out of time?
Well,
Come on.
we never run out of time. You know that, Joe. We can keep going.
Right.
Unlike CBS, NBC, ABC, we can just keep going. Okay.
Believe me, one of the tragedies still, I still get to see Grapes, Don Cherry, because he has a show like this with his son. You don't get to see him; they just talk over clips. But that whole thing with Don Cherry about the poppies, the World War I remembrance, that was, that's a few years ago now, a couple of years, but that is tough. Boy, I miss that guy a lot. Don Cherry, about 97% of everything he said, I agree with totally. Even when he was wrong, I agree with. Going back to something Brad said, which brought back a lot of memories. When I used to teach seminars, I would point out that at this point, the playing rules, we have 40 rules. 40 rules. But there's only one rule that seems to expand every year. It has gone from a page to a page and a half to 2 pages. And sadly, Brad said it, but I'm going to reemphasize it. If you study the rule book and the interpretations, and you use those, and you use them early in games and set a standard, you use those 39 rules, you don't have to default to 601. the overuse of 601 a lot of time is on us, that we're not using the other 39 playing rules, that we're defaulting back to that. And I've said this, again, being redundant, but I don't care. We're starting a new season. And it's a season after, in many parts of this country, no hockey was played. And we're going to go through all sorts of problems coast to coast, not having enough officials. I don't know if the assistant coaches are going to go out there and be, linesmen. I don't know what they're going to do. I've done it where the assistant coaches put on their skates. Heck, I've grabbed kids that were goaltenders, the backup goaltenders, and said, I'm going to take a kid from each, and they're going to be linesmen. Well, you know what? All they got to do is get the puck, because obviously they can't blow the whistle because they got to keep the cage on, all right? So all they have to do is get the puck. I'm going to make the call. They just get the puck. And you know what? If they're really good at it, I'll have them try a face-off later on, And the goaltenders had so much fun doing that, There's going to be a lot of times it's going to be a challenge. But right
Question
now,
is, can the goaltender get out of the way on the big hit at the blue line?
Well,
I think he's taking his pads off.
Yeah, Scotty, some of the best officials that we've had
Our goaltenders.
are goaltenders. And
Voila.
I've always said goaltenders are the best officials, and then defensemen, and then wingers, and then centers, and then wingers. But goaltenders, God, you look at Cronforce was a goaltender, Brandon Mills was a goaltender, Steve Goodman, when he officiated, he was outstanding. He was outstanding.
I never knew that Steve was an official, and he's one of the first people when I got into this that gave me the assigners' names and who to contact and how to get started. So,
Steve Goodman, I'll tell you, he was, I can only use the word really, really solid, and there are guys that can do this level or do that level. He could do any level, and he was solid. And, he just, he told me one time, because he was part of that great group where we had the Raslowski boys, and we had Derek Martin and Neil Levin, and Andy McElliman and Scotty Zelkin and Scott Brand. He had to concentrate on his hockey career as a hockey director. He just couldn't do both.
Yeah, and he's retiring next year, so it's going to be sad to see him go. He's been around a long time. Good,
I think I saw on Facebook that group's photo. The old black and white one just the other day, because I believe it was Mr. Zelkin's birthday the other day.
Yes.
So,
Brian says Don Cherry is the best. Yes, I agree.
The best.
Grapes is the best. I mean, again, a guy that talked from the heart all the time, and it said even when he was wrong, I still loved it because he was wrong being honest about it. He was just a great guy.
Now,
well, who's this?
Paul says, "I'm sure there's a license plate being ordered today. Rule 601 somewhere later today." I'll give you a better one, Paul. I shouldn't give it away, but I'm going to give it away. Somebody's going to order it. Rule 641.
Yeah, nobody's going to order that. Hey,
I would order it. I would order it in a heartbeat. I would order Rule 641.
Scott, oddly enough, since we're talking about that, Illinois announced which license plates, the personalized license plates with like team logos and stuff, by the way. Just like to point out to all of our Cubs fans out there, the White Sox have the most plates sold in the state above the Blackhawks and the Cubs. So just let's point that out.
You know what? I have some thoughts about this, but I know it is such a divided subject of who you choose. I'm going to stay out of this one because I would be upsetting half the people out there because I know it's a divide.
Pick a side.
Yeah. Anyway. And well, Joe, I know you're older, but you know what Rule 641 is, right? You know 641. I just want to make sure that
Part B.
Part B. Yes, of course. I didn't want to go there. I was just going to get to Rule 641. Karen says we should ask Joe about getting married on the ice between games at a collegiate women's showcase.
Yes. Kathleen and I were married at the Edge. Lindenwood was playing Robert Morris, the girls' game, and it was really great. The girls had a great time. We rented out the pub that was upstairs on that west rink, and we didn't make a big thing out of it. I just made some calls to some folks, and Scotty Brand flew in, and other guys came in, but it was nice. And the girls all were out there with their sticks crossed when we came out, and
Did your wife?
Really good.
Did she wear skates?
Yes,
your
she
wife?
did.
Okay, that's so cool. That's cool.
Kathleen had skated in 20 years, and so of course I went looking for a pair of tacks for her, because
of course.
yeah. So I went out and I bought 4 pair of tacks that were either 5.5 or 6, and so we got her one that she kind of liked. This is before the baking and all of that, so I said, well, look. When I'm doing some games, I'm usually there early. If they're, when I'm moving the nets, go out and tool around a little bit. We'll go to a few public sessions. Fine. Well, it mostly worked out that she would come out and she would skate while I was setting up the nets, and then she'd stay in center ice for warm-ups. And, she was okay. I'm backwards not so good, but she was okay for not doing it for 20 years. But I'd say when the guys get out, don't be down in an end zone. Well, sure enough, I'd be talking to somebody and I'd look over and there she is talking to somebody down in the corner, pucks flying all over the lane, bang, bang. She's got nothing on but her skates. And I'd go down and I'd go, honey, I said, stay out of the corners. She goes, oh, we were talking about something, So, yeah, for about 3 weeks before, she worked on her skating, and we had, beautiful pair of tacks, and I polished them all up for her. And
I bet.
Yeah, and everybody else were in,
Put the heel and sole protector on the toes there for her, Joe?
Yes, absolutely. And
that used to be a competition.
And it was like I say, it was the top division women's game, Lindenwood, about Robert Morris, and we all wore the tie and shirt and the V-neck sweaters like they used to wear in the 40s and early 50s for officials, and we had the CCH or ACHA press on. And then between periods, I'd throw on my skate guards and run up the stairs to say hello to the people, and then go back down and go into the locker room, talk to the guys, And yeah, we had Jack Reslowski and Cindy Robertson were the linesmen. Yes, they're not lines persons, they're linesmen. And Peter Turneris and I refereed it. We did 4 officials, and it was a great day. And Karen, was there, and
some high-profile people. Yeah,
it was a great day. It really was, And we had a nice cake, and then the girls came up afterwards, and we had catered in, not fancy food, real Italian beef, real good thick pizzas, we had all the stuff, and we had wine, and of course the bar was open, that they had up there. It was very nice. The Edge was very nice to us. The judge, he was scared out of his mind to go out to center ice, because he wasn't on skates. But it was a very nice event, and the Lindenwood girls and the Robert Morris girls, they had so much fun afterwards and during the game. They had so much fun talking about, doing the cross sticks and all that. It was a great time. It really was. It was a great time. Well, we are close to, saying goodbye here, and I want to say goodbye by this. There was a show that called Hill Street Blues, where the old sergeant at the end of the day would say, let's be careful out there. Yeah, that's true. Let's be careful out there. But, gang, it's the beginning of the year. Let's go out and make sure that we communicate that we're trying to do this because what's our job? To keep the game fair and safe, or safe and fair, depending on the level. That's it. The basic thing. All the rule books you want to talk about, all the seminars, safe and fair. Fair and safe. The higher the level, it's more fairness than safety, especially in the lower levels, it's safety first and then fairness. And as you incorporate that into your communication with the kids, with the players, with, if you have to talk to a parent, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that have problems with some of these rules. The 3 of us have problems with some of these rules, okay? But let's get out there and set the tone early. We're not looking to call 40 penalties. Believe me, you call 3 or 4 early, that's going to save you 10 or 15 later. And
Yep.
and then on top of that, God, have a great season and be careful out there. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, Joe, thank you so much for joining us halfway to St. Patrick's
Halfway.
Day right here on the Ref Room. Yes, with the legendary Joe Pops Prescott. All right. All right, Brad, you got anything before we go?
No, just a good day. I told you the halfway to St. Patrick's Day would be fun, and have Joe on because the season would be right upon us. So it was a perfect timing.
That's
That's
right.
what I thought. So
Great idea.
appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We do this every Wednesday. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. It helps us. If you'd like, you support the channel by going to buymeacoffee.com/refroom. We will be back next week, next Wednesday at noon, right here Central Time, as we progress into the season, because I know it's getting busier. I think Central States opens up this weekend. Buckle up your seatbelts. We're ready to go. All right. Have a great weekend, or a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week right here on the Ref Room. On behalf of Brad Baumruck and the legendary Joe Prescott, have a great week, guys.